in crypto. Honestly, there is. The Fed is doing QE. We talked about it yesterday. And outside of you good people like Hal Lopez, outside of you good people, no one's listening and no one gets it. So today we will have a good QE joke to help explain to you that even though the Fed has come out and said we're not doing QE, they actually are. Now, what does that mean? That means they're putting money into the market that's hot. And hot money can find its way into crypto. Now, hot money can also start inflation. Speaking of that, we're going to have the YouTube member podcast, the top 15 surprises for 2026. I came up with my list, and we will be filtering that through your friendly neighborhood clairvoyant. So come see what the real surprises are. Gold, oil, Bitcoin, altcoins, Ethereum versus Solana, bonds, the Fed, printing, stock market, you name it. That is 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern time. Now, everybody sold. Everybody got bearish. I saw Arthur Hayes, who's like one of the gigabulls in Zcash and Bitcoin, talking about certain layer ones or many layer ones will go to zero. Now, it's interesting that he had to talk about that on a podcast. In other words, you can't talk about crypto these days unless you have something to say about something going to zero. And I'm like, that seems oddly suspicious, right? In other words, when the bullish people get bearish, or the bullish people, it's fashionable for them to talk about everything going to zero. Or, we discussed this yesterday, Tom Lee and the Michael Saylors of the world start running thin on the CNBC bullish pump case. Like they can't make the case anymore because they've said everything that there is to say, except the fact that they're doing QE. Now, if you'd like a trading tip, like how can I get good at crypto? Like, what should I do? Should I go on crypto Twitter? And here's the answer. No. Okay. So every ninny on Instagram and Twitter had this graph a month ago. Specifically, all right, the yellow line is money supply, M2, which, has a massive definition beyond the attention span of the dimwits on Twitter. So supposedly Bitcoin was supposed to go straight up along with this M2 measure, global M2. But what people didn't realize was that Chinese money supply is in global M2. It's not hot money from the Fed. It's money elsewhere. Okay, so everyone looks at the chart. Bitcoin goes down, and this guy's all upset. M2, Okay, the lesson. Get some research. Don't listen to crypto Twitter. We have it. Other people have it. Get some. Now, everyone was talking about M2 and Bitcoin. Okay, and now none of those people are talking about the fact that the Fed stopped tightening, stopped draining money out of the system, cut rates in December, which was expected, but 3 months ago wasn't at all. There was 0% chance back in October. And now they are doing QE. Now, I realized that yesterday I went through the whole legacy nerd thing, and I still might. But here's a little joke about, the stealth QE. In other words, we're putting money into the market. We're buying $40 billion a month in short-term government bonds or bills, and we're giving that hot money to the street to pump the system. But it's not QE. So here's the joke. The Federal Reserve says, this is not QE, okay? We're ending tightening and buying $40 billion a month of Treasury bills, but it's just reserve management purchases, a totally different vibe. Really? Okay. That's like my wife catching me in bed with the neighbor and me going, babe, relax. This isn't cheating. It's just advanced cuddle optimization with someone who isn't you. In other words, we're listening to a whole bunch of double talk from the Fed. They're printing. And Uncle Sugar has to borrow $8 trillion next year. So this is like the warm-up. This isn't even a warm-up. If it's American baseball, it's not the national anthem. It's not the first inning. It's not the national anthem. I think you're still tailgating in the parking lot. You haven't even gotten into the stadium. That's how early we are on QE round number 5. And what are we doing? What are we doing? We're selling. We're getting out. We're talking about what's going to zero. Are you crazy? Well, yeah, I'm crazy because I'm talking about QE. This is like happening. And one of the things that QE can do, you're watching it pump silver. People don't realize that in commodity markets, right? Commodity markets are the altcoins of legacy. And when you have stuff like, I don't know, silver, you got an obvious shortage, monetary debasement, industrial use for data centers. It's the same thing like in soybeans. If there's a drought, locust, supply disruption, weather, tornadoes, floods. These kind of supply disruptions in commodities can create absolutely wild price action. And we're watching gradually and then suddenly in silver, we're watching it. But as one commentator said, silver reminds him of what happened with GameStop, 1 or 2 years ago. Actually, it's longer than that. GameStop started before Christmas and then went insane thereafter. And then what I didn't realize, according to Just Dario, was that an alt season kicked off after the GME speculative fever. So you have speculative fever in precious metals. To find out what our 2026 precious metals forecast is, you want to stay tuned for the redirect to the YouTube member podcast. But everyone is throwing in the towel on crypto. Now, it is interesting, and it is annoying that Bitcoin cannot get through 92K. And I understand if you're frustrated about that. However, I would encourage you to look at the glass as being half full. Because guess what? They can't take it below 90. Because anybody who understands what QE is and what the start of QE was back in the day and how people didn't understand what it was, apparently we've gone back to QE kindergarten. They're doing it. Everyone was looking at the money supply graph. The money supply you should be looking at is what they've announced they're putting into the system. And then we sold crypto. And I'm confident that anybody who was puking this thing below 90 literally was selling it to like a BlackRock or a Vanguard. These guys are just down there. Now, unfortunately, that makes the market maybe a little dull. And maybe a bunch of guys get short some of these big altcoins. And I will tell you something about Zcash right now. Because you have QE, the privacy narrative, a dull market, and you could have two things moving, Zcash and silver. Now, Zcash on 4-hour charts and daily charts is probably coming up on a pause. Now, it depends what kind of pause you get. If you get a sideways pause or Zcash doesn't go down in like the next 38 hours, we'll see at 600. Like, I'm long Zcash, come get me. And if you want to find out what else is on the come get me list, stay tuned. But some of it's somewhat predictable. The Bitcoin forks, right? What's the upside target in Zcash? What is it? What's the upside target in Monero? Is it a 3-digit number? Is it a 4-digit number or a 5-digit number? Where can these cryptos go? You want alt season? I'll give you alt season. You got alt season going on right now in Zcash. No one is paying attention. And this is classic, just like 2017. Everybody wants to go home for the holidays. Everyone gives up on crypto. And if Zcash doesn't go down in the next 48 hours, it could go straight up. And who knows? It might even be able to take Bitcoin with it. Because I have absolutely no idea with the Fed literally pushing money into the system for Christmas, why it would go down. I think you have a lot of soft price action in equities because the Fed has kind of admitted that something is wrong. That's why they're pushing money into the system. And that's probably triggering profit taking in stonks, which, understandably could put a lid on crypto or not, right? If Zcash is supposed to go down, if NASDAQ is weak, but Bitcoin doesn't go down, that will tell you something. The thumbnail on this is it starts right now. All you need is one day where people realize Bitcoin's not going below 90. It's not. And even if S&P or NASDAQ goes down, if Bitcoin stays above 90, people in the equity market are going to take note. Crypto heads might miss it because I don't know, what are we looking at now? We're looking at money supply, and now we're looking at some kind of retrofitted graph about economic activity that comes from Raoul Pal. And I'm sure he's losing sleep at night because when it gets all over crypto Twitter and Tom Lee has to go on TV and use it, it's wrong. If everybody thinks the same thing, if everyone's looking at the same chart, it's wrong. It's like a terrible feeling as an analyst. Like, oh, look at this cool chart that I have. And everyone's looking at it. Like, oh my God, please. You don't want to look at the same thing that everyone's looking at. Like, you don't know anything about crypto. You just got on TikTok. You've fallen out of bed. And you be like, okay, I got to learn something about crypto. Yeah, don't do what everyone else is doing. If everyone's got the money supply graph, the money supply graph is wrong. The graph that you want to have is the QE graph, which again, I just explained. So Bitcoin on a 4-hour chart has a great reversal signal near 90K. So far, it's holding. I'm very encouraged by this slow price action, believe it or not. Bitcoin is also sitting on an important moving average around 91K. You could say it's a bird on a wire getting ready to fly. Solana is also above a key moving average. Solana also has great DeMark bottoming signals on both its daily chart and its weekly chart. I listened to Multi-Coin Capital do their sort of year-end review where they showed a speech by their top guy, Kyle Samani, and he used a term called internet capital markets for Solana and what happens when everybody is getting paid in stable coins and, Solana is integrated into the iPhone and iOS Android systems. The guy told a little story about what happened when Facebook wanted to develop a cryptocurrency called Libra. They actually put $1 billion into it, $1 billion, before Uncle Sugar was like, oh, no. You Silicon Valley characters are not doing money. And they still won't let them do money in the latest Stablecoin Act. But that doesn't mean they're not going to integrate it. They've wanted to integrate that stuff into their messaging platforms for years. So he's like, hey, this is going to happen. It's going to happen on Solana. And Solana has been, tossed out of the car on the old road trip, the Dairy Queen cup that just gets squashed on the side of the road. No one wants it at 140. That's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. Meanwhile, you have coins like Monero and Bitcoin Cash that just simply sit at the high end of their ranges. They haven't gone down. They haven't done anything. You want to know why? Because no one owns it. You want the 2-minute elevator pitch for crypto? I'll give it to you. In equities, they're all long the wrong thing. They're all long S&P. They're all long Magnificent 7. Okay? And they should be long Bitcoin. So they got 60% of their money in S&P. They should have 60% of their money in Bitcoin. Now, over here in crypto, where everyone's got Bitcoin, most likely you're sitting on not only Bitcoin, but you're probably sitting on ETH, Solana, XRP, SUI, whatever. And I submit to you this, maybe outside of Solana, and I know Toby's a big ETH fan, but even if you go to the big coins, the message that we will be discussing in detail in the YouTube member podcast, top 15 surprises for next year, is more than likely you've got last cycle's coins. Period. Now, if that's the case, what are this cycle's coins or the super cycle coins? I don't know. How about everything Zcash and related on Coinbase? Like, what happens if the trenches are on Coinbase? What happens if stuff that no one wants, like Dash, like laugh? Like, okay, you want to have a laugh? Let's have our morning laugh. Forget about Dash. Let's have a real laugh. Okay, so what's everyone talking about these days? Silver, right? Everyone's talking about silver. And in Bitcoin, or I'm sorry, in crypto, what's silver? Okay, well, you could argue it's Zcash, but not really. Not as normies would know it. The real silver is Litecoin, right? Bitcoin is gold, Litecoin is silver. Now, if silver gets pumping to 80, I'm sure the Litecoin Twitter account will start picking up on this. Normies go into Litecoin on Coinbase. If Bitcoin starts pressing 100, where's Litecoin going to be? You know, Litecoin hasn't really moved. Litecoin hasn't moved in 3 years, 2 years. It's been at 80. You had a couple of blips over 100. Like, you want to talk about building a base? And I know this is ridiculous, right? I'm like, oh my God, I'm waking up out of bed and this guy's talking about Litecoin. Actually, I am. Because the more cringe there is, you got to buy what's cringe. Like, now everybody thinks Fartcoin is a blue chip. Goat and Fartcoin were major cringe coins when they came out, particularly with the legacy crowd. Wow, did they stick their nose up in the air about that, you know, right before it went to 2 billion market cap. Right. What goes up? What no one understands, what everyone hates, what no one wants to buy or no one can buy. In this case, no one's going to want to go to Coinbase. Normies are going to sit and watch S&P go lower with Bitcoin holding steady or moving higher. And people in crypto with last cycle's altcoins may miss round 2 of Zcash and friends. That's what I'm calling it. Are you listening to the wrong research? That's why I started with the M2 graph. Do you understand QE? I don't think you do. I saw what QE did in equities. QE stopped every down move in its tracks. Like, everybody goes, oh, the Fed prints, number go up. Yeah, okay. But what QE really did was it would stop every down move, right? Like, they would let the stock market go down. It would break support. All the chart nerds like me would go, oh my God, it's breaking down. It was like literally like I was so wrong. I was like Kramer. I was so wrong. I was money. Because every time it would break down, it was almost like they would send my chart report to the Fed. They would do QE and the thing would just levitate back up, reclaim all the ranges. And 6-9 months of that, I had to retool everything that I did. Everything. That's when I started using DeMark. I was like, oh my God, this is all wrong. QE changed price action. QE stopped declines. So everyone's like, oh, yeah, I'm all bearish. Oh, yeah, Bitcoin's going to 70. No, it's not. No, it's not. Homie, you got $40 billion a month being pumped into the system. Now, again, you know, as we talked about with the joke, right? Oh, yeah, but it's not QE. You know, I'm snuggling with the woman next door, but it's not cheating. You got to be kidding me, right? This is what they're trying to sell you on Twitter, right? It's like, you know, it's zero hedge. What Bessent and Trump want is cheap funding. Flood the short end, which means like the treasury bill market. Flood the short end and starve the long end, meaning collect tariff revenue so you don't have to issue a lot of bonds. Right? Today, the Fed, it announced it will be there to flood the shorter end of the bond market. And then Zero Hedge concludes, oh, but it's not QE. It's not QE, right? The Fed's coming in to flood the market, right? They're trying to get rates down. They want rates down. And you can't have rates down if you have a funding crisis with like bank lending. You know, like, I don't know, somebody's like, you know, the car defaults are now above the 2008 high. An average new car is like $750 a month. How's anybody going to get to work? You know what I'm saying? Like, there are cracks in the system. Now, of course, Powell can't step up to the podium and go, whoa, man, this is really messed up. I guess I completely screwed this up. He's not going to do that. Right. Particularly if inflation, you know, I don't know what the rate of inflation is. It's very high if you like beef. And I don't know what it is, but people are miserable and they're tired of it. Okay. So they have to do more QE. So why are we selling Solana at 140, right? If they're putting money into the system, they call it the Fed put. That's the jargon in legacy. What that means is the Fed doing QE puts a floor under the market. So is Bitcoin going below 90? No. Is it going up? Well, not yet, because people haven't figured this out. They haven't. I mean, I did this thumbnail yesterday. It was like me in a suit, QE. And I'm like, yeah, everyone's going to watch this. No one watched it. That was the lowest rated thing I've done in 3 months. And I'm like, okay, well, good. Thank you for tuning in. The market's going up. Zcash, again, you got a 2-day pause, no pause. We'll see you at 600. People at Christmas, you're going to be sitting there. You're going to be sitting on the couch on Christmas Day going, oh my God, Zcash is at 900. It's going to be like 2017. That's when Bitcoin hit 20K. It was right on Christmas, pretty much. It launched on Thanksgiving and went insane at Christmas. And exactly the same thing is going to happen. Why? Because QE has put a floor underneath an asset like crypto that's both speculative and benefits from monetary debasement. I mean, NASDAQ is down this morning and Bitcoin is holding and alts are up. Now, you can't make too much of any one day. However, I think we can start looking at the market honestly and go, what does QE mean again? Like, there's nothing on Zero Hedge about QE today. Nothing. Right? I don't know if there's anything on Bloomberg because I think they've convinced everybody that they're not doing it. Right? Like, look, let me just pull up. Let's just see if we can see what's on Bloomberg this morning. We can't see it. What's on Bloomberg this morning? Fed Goodsby cites need for more data in dissenting vote. Yeah, okay, let's dissent. We're printing. Okay, I'll kill this. We're printing, but let's dissent. Let's talk about the people who don't want to cut rates while we print. The printer's running in the background. Oh, no, can't do this. The overnight lending rate between banks shouldn't go down. Bro, you hearing that noise behind you? Yeah, that's the printer. There's no printer memes. You know, the green guys with the handle and the money's flying out with the little anime girl singing. None of it. Zero. A guy in a suit in front of the Fed with the giant QE. Nothing. We're acting like this isn't happening. And I'm here to tell you, as you get out of bed, for all our friends on YouTube, all the YouTube members, this is happening. Right? I mean, if Toby told you they were going to cut rates, Toby told you they were going to print. They're printing, and no one thinks they have to buy the market. We're on podcast talking about what layer ones are going to zero. What? You know what? AI agents aren't going to be back. There's going to be no sequel to Fartcoin. Do you really believe there isn't going to be a sequel to Fartcoin? I mean, I have seen a lot of memes are dead. Toby hates memes. I know that. I have to talk about it on this show because I know I sure as hell can't talk about it on the YouTube member podcast. But what would happen if somebody actually brought back an AI-based meme? Because the AI trade has not been done in crypto, and we're either going to do it with Tau and Akash and Render, or we're going to get it started with some kind of AI-based meme nonsense where, you know, it's like AI XBT meets Tau meets Fartcoin on steroids. It can happen now because they're doing QE, right? That's at least some speculative juice in the market. And if you have what you have is options expiration today, Friday, December 12th. If you have options expiration today, that usually means crypto doesn't do much, or it doesn't do anything until after this event in the derivatives market is over. So again, as people look at their screen, there doesn't really seem to be any urgency. There doesn't. And that's fine, right? Until somebody wakes up and goes, wait a minute, silver's headed for $80, right? Gold is not going down. And why aren't we participating in this new speculative party? Vanguard is underneath Bitcoin and everyone is negative. But let's have a morning crypto show where we talk about everything going to zero. You got to be kidding me. Talking about going to zero, like the only thing that's running faster than the Fed's printer is my printer trying to get research out the door. Patreon's got Bitcoin miners. The Platinum Group's got the Zcash roadmap. I mean, you have FUD coming from everywhere, right? I mean, they're retweeting, right-wing political commentators discussing how Bitcoin is an intelligence community psyop. Well, yeah, it was invented by the intelligence community after 2008, or somebody very secretive, in case you had another 2008 and we needed another form of money. So this guy's like, yeah, I won't touch it because trying to get normies off Bitcoin. Good luck with that, right? They got normies off Bitcoin, or they're trying to get you off Bitcoin. They're trying to get you off ETH. They're trying to get you off everything. They're doing to the XRP crowd what they did to them at 55 cents. It's like, well, it's going to be at $2 forever. That's probably what they think, because that's what it's done. It's been at $2 for a year, and they've been through this already. This 2025 was a bear market, somewhat in price, but mostly in frustration. Like Bitcoin went straight up, mostly, right? At least in the early part of the year, and then it just sat there and rolled over. So has there been a bull market? No. Matter of fact, the QE next level research is to argue, if you look at your bag, it's a bear market. It's a bear market. We've been in a bear market all year. So we're in a bear market, and they just started QE. And they were selling the fact, whatever the fact was, whatever algo said was the fact. The fact is, I read you a joke. I read you Zero Hedge. I went on and on and on about it all day yesterday. This is happening. They're doing it. When does it start? I don't know. Right now, right? When Solana is at 250, you'll be like, wow, I could have bought it at 150, right? Like Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, Zcash, all bid. Okay, yeah, they're up 1%. It's not like it's running away from you, but that's the whole point. You get the research before it runs away from you. Because what makes this go down again? The Fed is literally printing, and Vanguard is allowed to do the Bitcoin ETF. You're going to sell into that? Every time the market goes down, they're going to flood the market with money. Every time NASDAQ goes down 3%, they're going to push money into the system, whether it's the $40 billion purchases or it's just good old-fashioned high-powered money. You think with the president of the United States talking about how great the stock market is, that the stock market is going down at Christmas? There's this Bank of Japan meeting in 6 days, which will probably be the market's next excuse, right? So everybody on Twitter will become Japanese government bond and yen carry trade experts. The Japanese are going to do something to wreck the markets at Christmas, right? Wrong. They're not. And that'll probably start the GameStop move in silver. And then I'm assuming crypto follows. Even if we have to wait closer to Christmas it's not like it's going lower. I mean, it's not great, and your bag is still down, but it's not getting worse. Now, let's talk about fade. Let's talk about a different kind of fade to herd. So right now, everyone's negative. The market doesn't look great, and I'm encouraging you to be positive, even though I don't know, that may be a futile effort, but I'm going to do it anyway. So at 120, everyone was bullish. At 90, everyone's talking about layer ones going to zero. Sometimes what the herd thinks, often what the herd thinks is wrong. Like, here's a classic example. Recently, you had an election in New York City, and a guy who was very far to the left gets elected. Now, leading up to the election, the whole argument to vote for any other candidate, one who I actually liked because he was in the Guardian Angels, but the argument for most of the other candidates was that they weren't this guy. Because if you elected this guy, everyone would leave the city. It would turn into Mad Max. It would be the end of the world. Everyone's going to move to Florida. Everyone's going to move to Texas. Texas put out a statement that says, if you move here, we'll tax you for moving here. Nobody from New York is coming here. Blah, 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 blah. So the guy gets elected. So the guy gets elected, right? And it's the end of the world, right? Wrong. It's not the end of the world. Manhattan real estate was supposed to go down when he got elected, and it didn't. So what did Manhattan real estate do? It went up only. Like wealthy properties, everyone was waiting to buy. Everyone thought the market was going lower. Yeah, guess what? It didn't go lower. Now there's all these rich people flooding into New York City. Because they all waited because of the election, because, it was going to zero, according to Twitter. Now, that's kind of an extreme example. I don't know if I would have been like, oh, yeah, let's get long Manhattan real estate. But again, I think crypto and Bitcoin is like the new Manhattan real estate that everybody assumes is going to zero. And I don't see how anybody can think that with what's going on with silver, the overbought condition in NASDAQ, the fact that nobody in legacy owns Bitcoin and everybody in crypto owns the stuff from the last cycle and is not picking up on the general Zcash narrative, which includes privacy, Bitcoin forks. I mean, the sheer fact that McAfee's project AIntivirus, which is like an AI-based meme that has real privacy utility, they just came out with like a browser extension, and they have shirts that defeat facial recognition. At just like 1 million market cap. John McAfee was the original crypto influencer. Let's call him that. He's dead. And they brought him back to life with an LLM. And then I had some AI model that doesn't know that I like antivirus come out and say, yeah, they're going to bring the AI trade back to crypto with a walking, talking fart coin. Can you imagine? And they're releasing their own privacy project, which you can get you can get the placeholder. It's going to trade on its own blockchain, but you can get airdrop the token if you own the Matrix, I call it coupon, which trades on Solana for 1 million market cap. John McAfee's group is going to launch its own privacy coin in the middle of a monster Zcash and Monero parabolic, but it's only worth 1 million to get you buy the token on Solana and you get the airdrop of the Matrix token. 1 million market cap. I know a guy who's promoting he's looking at a meme coin. He's always calling me. He's like, look at this meme coin. Look at this meme coin. It trades around the same market cap. I'm just saying, I mean, does your crypto project have facial recognition software or the facial recognition t-shirts? Stylish, I think. Can't really see them, but do they? This stuff's all out there, right? Crypto, largely, as I'm sure you can tell by your P&L, has just been left by the side of the road as an asset class. What's his name? Not Peter Thiel. Peter Schiff is going, Bitcoin is dead. The guy's engagement farming out of his mind. He's a celebrity now because of precious metals. Excellent. Like when Michael Saylor was on the cover of Forbes We should have all sold, took a 9-month vacation, and come back now. That's what we should have done. Now, what Peter Schiff is doing, now he's Michael Saylor. He's the celebrity. He'll be on the front cover of a magazine, at which point we'll switch over to Bitcoin and anything in crypto. I mean, I'm not kidding. I mean, you have Arthur Hayes on a podcast talking about most layer ones will go to zero. Now, okay, maybe there's too many layer ones. I've heard there's too many layer ones argument. I get it. You know, everything in crypto is not going to make it, but is that he's on Altcoin Daily talking about that. That's the quote from Arthur Hayes. Arthur Hayes, except for Ethereum and Solana, almost all other L1s will go to zero. We're going to run the entire internet on 2 layer ones. I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, I know you can't get lump. What about Near? What happened to that? What happened to that? What, Chainlink is only going to connect 2 chains? I don't know. Call the business department at Chainlink and ask them. I don't think so. I don't think so. And I also think, like I've said before, this whole thing about AI agents. I mean, I understand that AI models are limited. And I think it's worth noting, like Just Dario kind of came out with something really interesting that said people in the law office were using ChatGPT. And what they found was they spent so much time trying to write prompts to get ChatGPT to do their work. They were spending more time on prompts than work, so they just stopped using it except to write emails. Now, what they did say happened was that ChatGPT replaced the work of a junior research lawyer, so they no longer have to hire those people. But this idea that ChatGPT is going to run a business or meet with clients, or that you or everybody else is out of work tomorrow, is ridiculous. And you're right, it is ridiculous because the software is hopelessly ahead of the hardware. Hopelessly. They will never be able to build enough stuff in the next 5 years to keep up with where the software is now. So this leaves AI with what to do. Create meme coins. Create meme coins. Act as agents. Tweet. Trade. Give recommendations. These things are going to happen. Right? The software is going to somehow get loose if they can actually get it out the door with some hardware behind it. And what are these characters going to want to do? They're going to want to buy crypto. They're going to want to create excitement. Is there any better way to create excitement than crypto? I mean, you know, Eagle King sending news through right now, right? Orange Man approval rating just hit an all-time low. Normally, when their approval rating gets low enough, they turn around and they do a monster crypto pivot. Okay? Yeah, I'm also looking at something that the Eagle King just sent of some woman sobbing on TikTok, right? She wanted her insurance company to build the exact same home, and guess what? It's not happening because of monetary debasement, or I don't know if you notice this as an American, everything feels like a ripoff. Everything. Everything feels like a ripoff. Every package is shrinking. You know what? It's a mind F. Here, let me tell you something silly. What is everyone saying on Twitter? Everyone's miserable. We're all miserable, right? Everyone's miserable. What happens if 2 years from now, you look back at Christmas 2025 and go, you know, those were the good old days. Those were the good old days when I can get Bitcoin at 90. That's what my co-host Toby Ward said, who is coming up in 15 minutes with the 15 surprises for 2026. I come up with the surprises. She grades them. I hope I'm wrong, because then she'll give me a whole bunch of stunning predictions, or that's the hope. Be there or be square in 15 minutes. We will see you soon.